All right. Hello, everyone. This is our November meeting for the Commission on the Status of Women, and it is 7:04, and I'm calling the meeting to order. So the first order of business is the approval of the minutes from our September 11th meeting. We did not have an October meeting. So is there a motion to approve the September 11th, 2023 minutes?
So moved.
Is there comment? Should we take comment first? I should.
Sorry, point of order.
Yeah.
Don't the note, are the note takers on, Michelle?
Oh, yeah, right. No, they're not.
I
That's
don't
what I was
see
asking
any
before,
person.
but yeah.
No, which is that would be the first time they didn't show up. So, well, the whole meeting's being recorded, so they'll have to type it up after the fact.
Okay, thanks.
So for the record, then we should probably state our names if we're doing. Okay, so Christina voted to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I wasn't there.
Okay. Ashley or Yvonne, were either of you here last month?
I wasn't in the September meeting, so I can't
Okay.
vote.
I was in it. I'm just scrolling through really quick now, but I can second them.
Okay, so we have a second from Ashley and then we can just see if there's any comment on or corrections on the minutes. I reviewed them. I didn't have any.
Yeah, they look fine.
Okay, so I think then we'll may have a motion to approve the minutes. Do we just do that?
I'll move.
Thank
Ashley.
you, Ashley. Is there a second? I think it can only be Christina if you were here on September 11th.
Sure. Yes. So
Okay.
moved or seconded.
All right. So can we vote on that then? And all in favor say aye or raise your hand. So
Aye.
Ashley, Claudia, and Christina, all opposed. Nobody, and all any abstentions. And that's Yvonne and Jasmine, neither of whom were here at that meeting. Thank you. Okay, so is there anyone, Michelle, who's waiting to give public comment?
There isn't.
Okay. All right, so since we're waiting for Robert Stowers to join us, we'll just skip new business item A and come back to that when he's here, and we'll just go to item B, which is the diversification of boards and commissions committee. And if there are any, well, I guess the first item there is about the name. Which we
I'll just kick us off just with some procedural. So you know, if you all do vote for a recommended new name for the commission, it would be a recommendation that would go to the ordinance committee to do further research to see what's possible and for a potential vote. So I just wanted to share that process with you all.
Okay.
So it's not guaranteed, therefore.
Okay, and there was some discussion at the last meeting of sort of somebody, right, if the commission votes to change the name, then would we write something up to go with that recommendation, or like a rationale or bullet points, or they just discuss it amongst themselves?
Yeah, you can definitely write a recommendation as well. But if you guys vote for a name, I'll facilitate those next steps and help you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So the name that was recommended at our last meeting, and we had just, as per the minutes, kind of wanted to see, as Michelle just shared, kind of what would be the process for adopting a new name. So the name that was put forward was the Commission on Gender Equity. And there was some discussion, but I know not everybody was there. So I just want to open that up for discussion and a vote. So first, we'll just see if there's any comments or discussion, questions.
Was there like a runner-up, or that was kind of like the only name you guys decided on?
So, yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
You can share too. I had shared just a few different names that some folks had thought of. And then Sharon had, I believe, asked for further, like for folks to share further recommendations as they saw, as they wanted to. Right? Anything else that I missed?
I think most of the anything else that kind of came up in discussion was as wordy or wordier than Commission on the Status of Women. So I think we were trying to both be more concise and more inclusive with the name.
And we had shared at the last meeting that Ashley and Michelle and I had met, and Sharon had, so there were, as Michelle said, there were a few different ideas that were floated. And Michelle had looked at some other commissions around the country to see sort of if there were some other good examples. And gender equity is Commission on Gender Equity or Commission on the Status of Gender Equity, which is more or less the same, but just a little bit longer. A number of similar commissions have been moving to that from Status of Women. So yeah, go ahead.
Marissa, can I just ask I guess a point of order question? How many commission members, how many commission members are we missing tonight? Because I feel like that's a pretty, and again, we're not voting on changing our name. That's not in our purview. We're voting to and so
recommend.
So just to make sure that the agenda is, and I don't have it up. I only have one screen open. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is how many members of the commission do we have? And I know we're in quorum, but I just feel like that is a significant conversation to have and would like to see a more robust conversation on it, even though we did last time. So maybe that's not necessary.
You have 5 and you're missing 4. And I know there's a few positions that we want to fill.
Opening. Okay.
I mean, we can certainly also just vote to table it, until we have more have the full commission present. I mean, I think that's fine. There are, I agree. You're a double negative. It's not an insignificant decision, right? So
were some of the folks who aren't here tonight here in September when we first talked about it? Just between the 2 meetings, have we kind of covered
the people,
most folks?
That's a fair question.
Look at the minutes. Hold on to see who was here.
Yeah, that's from.
Okay, so in September we had Claudia, Sharon, Ashley, Shannon, Sarah, and Christina.
Okay.
So we still have Chantal was not here then and is not here now.
But Sharon and Shannon and Sarah were all here in September. Right. Okay.
That's a good point. I think then that means enough of us have weighed in on it then to move forward and not necessarily table it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Given that it's going to continue to be a process. Like even if we agree on the recommendation tonight, then it's who knows when the next ordinance committee meeting is, as like the new council folks are being sworn in, and so.
Correct.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add that Sharon, from my memory, Sharon said last time is that if, for example, Jasmine, you have other ideas that you wanted to share. I know Sharon said that she just welcomed that idea last time in terms of further research and more ideas being presented to the commission potentially.
Well, as a person that wasn't in the meeting last time, I think the new proposed name is a good name. It's short, and if it doesn't exist already as a commission, I would agree to move with the recommendation.
I agree.
Okay, in that case, why don't we, is there a motion to, I guess we need to make a motion to recommend the new name to the ordinance committee. So is there a motion to make that recommendation to change the name from the Commission on the Status of Women to the Commission on Gender Equity?
I move the motion.
Okay, thanks, Yvonne. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Ashley. Okay, so all in favor of making the recommendation for the name change to Commission on Gender Equity, please raise your hand or say aye.
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 Unanimous. So, so that's great. And then we'll hear from you, Michelle, about next steps.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Christina, do you want to speak to any of the other bullet points there or under the diversification, or Jasmine? I don't know who else is.
Yeah, I don't, okay, I thought I muted myself. I don't have any updates. On my end, I'm not sure, Jasmine, if you do. I think we were still waiting for some communication with LaToya again. I'm not sure. Let me read the agenda again, sorry.
Well, we do, yeah, so we do have a quick update on that. I guess the second bullet point was status of onboarding for appointed
Yeah.
board and commission members document.
I know we have a draft of something. I think Michelle and Claudia, I think you have seen it.
Yeah, I didn't have any comments. It's basically kind of what was in the PowerPoint that we prepared as a kind of intro PowerPoint. So I didn't have any additional comments.
So we'll follow up with Sharon then on any additional, like we'll follow up as to what the next steps would be with that document.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And I think next steps, right? Because in terms of the meeting with LaToya, I think that goes hand in hand with potential next steps, right? And Claudia, I don't know if you want to share that update.
Yeah, well, you reached out to her.
Basically, we showed LaToya Fernandez, the DEI officer, the agenda and the requests for her to come to the December meeting, and she said absolutely. So I know Claudia also suggested that the diversification of boards and commissions committee potentially have a chat with her before that meeting, just to discuss potentially the onboarding document and any updates she might share.
Yeah, and actually, in her note to you, Michelle, she actually said, would it be helpful to meet before the December meeting? So I thought that was great that she was suggesting it. And so, yeah, maybe I'll circle back with Christina, Jasmine, and Sharon to see, and see if we can find a time that works for everybody. I don't think it needs to be a long meeting, but I mean, for the diversification committee and LaToya and myself and anyone else who wants to be part of it. But I think just a short meeting to kind of get her up to speed and hear from her and just sort of figure out what we would like for her to prepare for December.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, then the last update there is, I guess that's so we're finished, unless there's anything else for the diversification of boards and committees. The next commission committee is the update on the implementation of the menstrual equity law, which I could share a little bit. So Sharon had I reached out to I'm gonna forget her name now. Andrea Boyas, is that her name? I'm totally spacing.
Sandra.
Sorry, Sandra.
Sandra is actually how she pronounces it. Sorry.
Who had told Sharon that she is the person who's been identified to kind of ensure the implementation for the Norwalk Public Schools. And so Christina, just to step back, Christina, Sharon, Michelle, and I met a while ago I can't remember, maybe early October or so, to kind of talk about how we would want to move this forward. And I see Mr. Stour has joined us. So I'll just finish this because it's quite quick and then we'll turn it over to you. Hi, thank you so much for joining us. So we agreed that I would reach out to Sandra and just ask how the commission might be able to help Norwalk Public Schools to ensure implementation of what's in the menstrual equity law and how, kind of just to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do. And I wrote not at that time, but just last week, and she wrote back and said that the products are in all the bathrooms in the high school, or from grade 6 to 12, and are available in the nurses and administrative offices for grades 3 to 5. So I wrote back again today because the law actually, to try to increase accessibility and destigmatize the issue. The law requires that the products be in all the bathrooms and not in the nurse's office. So students don't need to go and ask for things. They can just access products. And dignity is one of the principles of the law, dignity and accessibility, privacy, I think, and destigmatization. So I wrote back with some specific questions for her about, how we could ensure that it's all getting into the bathroom, that the law also requires that these one-page flyers be posted visibly, giving people information, that there's a coordinator in each school that can kind of is the point of contact. So I just wrote her today with those specific questions and shared a Connecticut Department of Public Health document that had a lot of kind of a frequently asked questions, and offered our support with awareness raising, with creation of flyers, with, to really, which is kind of the tactic that we decided to take to be, to offer support. So I'll just, as soon as I hear back from her, as I say, I did that today, but I will circle back and hopefully by December I offered in both my emails to meet, because I think that would be best, to sit down and kind of talk through what the law requires and just ask how we can kind of partner with the schools to really make sure that we're in compliance, and not just with the distribution of products, but also all of the principles of privacy and dignity. And they're very specific. The products are supposed to be in all the girls' bathrooms, one boys' bathroom in each school, and I believe all of the non-binary restrooms as well. So anyway, so now we have some friends on the Board of Ed, so maybe we'll tap into Ashley. So that's where we are with that. Okay, so we're gonna go back to our conversation with Robert Stauer. Thank you so much for making time to meet with us and for your super helpful memo in September. That was really great. So Michelle, do you want to can I turn it over to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Claudia. Thanks for joining us, Robert. So for those who haven't spoken to Robert before, he's our Director of Recreation and Parks, and he came to Norwalk, I think 1 year ago. No, 2 years ago, right? December.
Years in December.
2021.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and he came to us from Seattle, Washington, the city of Seattle, and just has a wealth of knowledge of city government where he worked, and recreation and parks. I don't have your resume in front of me, but it's definitely really, really impressive. We've been really lucky to have Robert's expertise. So Robert, thanks, like Claudia said, for sharing that memo on how gender was incorporated in the master plan. But if you want to give everyone just an overview of where we are with the master plan, what the focus points are, how, if you don't mind continuing to share more from the memo about how you incorporated gender in the process. And then I know the commissioners want to ask some questions, and I know you had shared in the past that you'd love their feedback for further ideas in general. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, our hope was to, can you hear me? Want to make sure you can hear me. That's one of the things. I don't have the best equipment, so
I think you're loud and clear, right, guys?
Yeah.
loud and clear. Okay.
We can hear you, yes.
Good. Well, initially, we try and make this study as scientific as we could possibly make it. So that includes that, we try and take a valid random sample of the universe, which includes all the various segments of our society: women, men, bisexual, gay, lesbian, and we had a stratified survey. We confirmed that survey by having an online survey to confirm that, and we did intercepts as well in the parks to confirm the other two surveys. And so they all kind of complemented one another, which gives us a really good idea that we're touching all segments of our audience. And then on top of that, we had 9 focus groups that concentrated on all the categories: our sports, our enrichment programs, our activities, special events, all the various categories of recreation, parks and recreation, our parks, how our parks look, all our sporting leagues. And there we got a lot of input from some of the women that we had on our sports focus group about making things a little bit more equitable in terms of participation, in terms of just having them have more access to our sports leagues and our facilities and activities and events. I think what's more important than anything is having just like the focus groups and the surveys and the studies, having more input from, which is just as more important, because that's where the planning comes in for the various activities, programs, parks, and facilities. So the master plan has been completed. It did go through a process of being adopted by the council after the Rec and Parks Committee, and it has been completed. We've had several public meetings. We had with our staff, with our stakeholders, and then several public meetings, and also having those extended to online access. I think we have the master plan, but the master plan is just a plan, and it lays out projects, facilities, and activities and sports and programs that we want to do better in. We want to have more access in those programs, and we want to generate more participation and more interest in those programs. And we can only do that with input from the public, because if we're not having activities and programs that you're interested in, then we're not going to get a lot of participation. So it has to come from our customers. And so that's what we are planning to do with the master plan. We have several facilities that we want to bring online in the next 10 years. One, of course, we're working on very diligently, and that is a recreation center, funding for at least most of it. And we've been fixing to put out an RFP for architect. So we're going to renovate an existing city facility, completely renovate the entire interior. We're also going to add a high school size gym as an additional part of that facility. So we'll have something like 32,000 square feet of recreation space and community rooms, STEM classes, esports, music facilities, recording, small recording studio, arts and crafts. Just a real recreation center, and for our youth, to get to the point where we're looking at female participation specifically, and then other genders, that we are going to put together an advisory council, and the advisory council is going to make sure that they're going to have the responsibility for advising our staff on what programs, what activities, and chiming in on specific marketing and promotions, and how we can lure more participation from females in our sports leagues, in our rec center, and to our programs. We also, for our sports leagues, where we've had a lot of complaints and also threatened Title IX lawsuits, we are putting together an advisory council. I've asked Jody Sadler, you guys might know her. She's been one of our residents that have really brought a lot of light and attention since I first got here. So we're going to have her. We're also have our recreation supervisor, Diane Campbell, and Kim Gerard. She's been involved in a lot of these leagues, knows a lot about sports, knows a lot about how to get. So we're having some of the folks to help us recruit, because one thing we need, we can put out information, but if we don't put out the information to the right sources or the right people, we don't get the. So we're going to be putting together an advisory council to advise us in terms of women's sports. So if you guys have ideas of who should be on that advisory council, I would really love that to get some names, so we can meet and talk about purpose, put together a charter, and try and follow that charter, and you get a lot more participation, and also a lot more input in designing some of the programs that girls want. It shouldn't just be us designing the programs. So those are the things that I'm doing immediately. But as we go on and we start implementing pieces of the master plan, and particularly with our facilities, I just heard you guys talk about restroom access to menstrual supplies, and that's believe it or not, that's been a source of contention for many years. Custodians and maintenance people just saying they don't want to be bothered with them, taking them out of the restrooms, and you figure out, well, who took them out of the restroom? Well, nobody won't talk, and it's been a bone of contention in terms of they should have this access to those supplies, and so I'm real familiar with that. So when we start putting together our facilities, and if we can, one of have to do with the Main Street, 98 Main Street Rec Center, we're looking at other possibilities of other a main centralized community center. We're looking at where we can put a swimming pool. We're bringing on we just had a good discussion today about, at least a beginning discussion, although I've been kind of tying up the background for a park foundation. Park foundation hopefully will, with some capital campaigns, will increase maybe the facilities we have, in maybe indoor pickleball, I don't know. But also we're working on an indoor tennis facility that we're covering 6 of our facilities, I think 4 to 6 of our tennis courts at Springwood, and that's another place where we can start looking at participation in women's tennis. Also, I'm on the board of the golf, Oak Hills Golf Authority. They just changed the charter so I could be on the board there. And they have also a tennis program there, and they have golf. So there's a lot of avenues in which, you know, I'm going to push to have more women and girls participate in, you know, multi-genders participate in some of the planning of our facilities and programs and our projects. So, and the way to do that is really have advisory groups that really have a standing with those advisory groups, building a charter, making sure that they're formalized through the Rec and Parks Committee, and then at least accepted by resolution for the common council. So that's the way you do this, and then, you know, they have some standing, some input. So that's what I'm working on. Also, I've been working with the schools on a joint use agreement, which will come before the Board of Ed. And we basically have completed that. We're just putting on the exhibits and the appendices of policies and calendars and those kinds of things. So we're just putting on the appendix, but it will go back to the Board of Education, or to the public school district. And hopefully that will be avenue for more access to school facilities also to put on these programs. So I guess I've talked enough. If you have any questions, I'd like to hear them.
Thanks, Robert. Yeah, go ahead and raise your hands. Christina has her hand up. If you want to ask your question first. You're on mute, Christina.
Yes, I was on mute. Oh my gosh, after all these years. So thank you, Robert. Good to see you again. I have a couple quick questions. I just want to make sure I understood a couple of the things that you said, though, as well. So you had mentioned that there had been, like, the master plan's approved. We know that. And there have been some focus groups and conversations after it's been published and finalized. Is that what I understood?
No. Those
To.
focus groups were helped to formulate.
Got it. And do you recall if gender equity issues came up in the focus groups? That you can recall? I realize you might not. So
some did. I think I can't recall, but I know that it of course, because I think some of the women that have been bringing that to my attention were on the focus groups.
Got it. And then the advisory councils that you were talking about, or advisory council, I wasn't clear. Is there more than one advisory council, or just one in particular towards gender?
I'm establishing them right now.
Got it.
One of the things we want to establish is the advisory council to the rec center. It was my experience in Seattle. We had 32 community centers there.
Right.
Every community center had an advisory board.
Got it.
Worked with the manager of that community center. So the mayor well aware that we're going to putting together one. Also, the YMCA is going to have a couple of programs there, and so they'll probably have somebody on the board as well, on the advisory council as well. But we're going to have probably somewhere, I don't know, 10 or 11 size advisory board.
Got it. And one of those will be dedicated to gender equity. Is that what I?
Well, yes. I mean, that'll be the charter. In the charter, we will establish that things have to be done that way.
Got it. And one of the things, and actually this comes from a very personal experience, when I was a youth 16-year-old here in Norwalk, I was actually on an advisory council for Parks and Rec. Remember that was a very formative opportunity for me. So I do hope that even as young as middle school, you could engage some young people on those advisory councils. I have some vivid memories of those experiences, actually, when everyone was trying to tell me what I needed or didn't have. And I was like, well, I only have one sport, and that's field hockey, because that's all we had for girls at the time. So, so I want to encourage the consideration of youth as young as middle school to be on those councils. And then my last observation is, and this really comes from our colleague Sharon, who's not on the call tonight. And so she has an example, and I can send it to you, Robert. So I think that it's going to be much clearer if I send it to you versus try to read it. But it's just an example of parity between the boys teams practices, how many practices in basketball they get a week versus the girls versus boys and the teams, and then how long their games are and how long their practices are. And it just feels like that the boys are getting more time. And so hopefully the master plan can reconcile that. I think that will be a big help. And then my last push is to really hope that we do a lot to advocate for people coming back to youth sports in town versus club sports, because, making sure that there's equal access to sports is so important. And not all of our good athletes can go the route of club, and nor should they, right? There's something to be said for having not having to pay your way to play, as I remember my own kids kind of taught me about, having two young men here in Norwalk. So looking forward to the master plan and all the great things that are happening. So thank you.
Yeah, addressing whether youth should be on the advisory council. On our park board, which was even a higher level board in Seattle that reported to the mayor. It was run, of course, the superintendent chaired the park board, but their recommendations came from the park board to the mayor and to the city council. There was a team on the park board, so we're very used to that. Yeah. I think in terms of the master plan, it's really, like I said, it's a plan, and each project or activity has to be evaluated and planned out in such a way that there's equity. And that's why we have our DEI officer, Latoya. I'm working closely with her, not only on how we can get more have more accessible programs in parks, but also I work with her in hiring. So right now we're in the midst of hiring a division director of recreation and athletic manager that will be in charge of all our sports and our athletics. And we have some really good candidates, and in our finalists, and there's a couple of women in our finalists, and we're having final interviews. That's on our sports side, and then on I was screening along with someone else today for the recreation division director, and there's some folks that are going to make the finalists in that too that are female. So I'm looking forward to hopefully one or two that coming through. So that's always helpful. It's always helpful to have someone that understands and is a part of that community to actually be able to be in the early planning stages for those projects. So I'm very optimistic that one of them will come through. Yvonne.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much. It's so informative, and it's very nice to know that these programs are taking place and are in the planning process. Just like Christina, I just wanted to emphasize the importance of having youth and also representation from the LGBTQ community and people of different abilities. They will be very useful at informing the accessibility that is needed for.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Our membership on our charters will spell out, the kind of members, the people, the audiences that we should have, and we want some representatives on all the advisory councils from different communities. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I was going to say something very similar also, just to echo on the children or youth participation in the advisory. And so it's great. I love what you said about the Seattle Parks Board. That's terrific. And I think, if there could be, a couple of seats that if the charter can build in seats for young people and, in both the advisory council for the rec center, which I'm super excited to hear about, by the way, and also the advisory council for sports, I think, then, even as those young people go to high school and move on to somewhere else, we can then kind of backfill them. But if those seats are there that are held for young people, then it really, we will always know that there's going to be somebody coming through. So I think that's great. And
yeah, we have to institutionalize those kinds of things.
right.
Even in, I've had my little stint. A lot of people don't know that, but I have my little stint in party politics as well. And, even when we went to the National Presidential Convention, we always had a couple of teens that would be made delegates. So it's important that they have that experience and that you hear their viewpoint.
Yeah, exactly. Especially since so many of the activities and sports and things are geared toward them. Let's hear their voices in that dialogue. I did want to just flag one other thing that came up at our meeting in September when your memo was shared. Yvonne mentioned, LGBTQ youth and others, but and pardon me for not knowing the answer to this, but whether there's anything in the master plan or you anticipate that there might be policies about transgender youth participating in sports based on how the gender group they identify with, as and whether that's either in there or has it come up in any of the focus groups or surveys, or what the
it hasn't come up. That discussion's all over the country. It hasn't come up, but accreditation usually in our accreditation, we're also working on accreditation will require they require policies on just about everything you can imagine. And so I'm sure that is actually one of the policies that we will have to we'll have to draft up. We don't have now, but it's not there's a lot of policies, even routine policies, that we don't have written that we're working on. But yeah, that's one of the things we'll have to come up with a policy and incorporate it into our accreditation submittal.
Yeah, that's great. I see Ashley say, I just want to say lastly, sorry, just to say that please see us, as there are 4 other commissioners who are not here, but and we have 3 vacancies, but as a resource and a sounding board. And, Latoya has met with us. She's coming back in December, and we've had a lot of off meeting conversation with her. So please just, utilize the collective commitment to the city and to these issues. So yeah,
definitely will.
I was just gonna thank you for being so thorough with everything. I would echo that, a transgender inclusion policy proactively before it, comes up is a good, wonderful thing. And I would just recommend considering reaching out to the folks at Triangle Community Center. They're an incredible resource in Norwalk and could probably really help with creating that policy in the most inclusive way. Okay. They're really fantastic.
Can you send me some contact information there?
Yep, okay. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
If I could just add, thank you for all that information. And I had a lot of questions that some of the other commissioners already said too, but in regards to the advisory councils, do you have an idea of how you plan to recruit for them? Is it just kind of word of mouth, or are we going?
Well, we can have different sources. This commission would probably be one source that I would want to have some names from. And I've already been contacted by several of the women that are involved in sports, so they can help me recruit members for the advisory council. So yeah, it'll be different sources but definitely I will consult with this body as well as any other groups that I can nail down. But we want it to be a wide, you know, I want to look as wide as possible.
Okay. Do you have in mind or like a list of requirements? Is it just, you know, people who are interested in sports, people who have sports expertise, people who teach sport?
Yeah, I
Like
think
what do you have a requirement?
I think it's all of those things.
All of them?
And I think we build a charter around, you know, when we build the charter, we want to build it with everybody participating in what the purpose and the mission and the membership should be and all that. So we get a group of people together and then we build the charter. And we go by that charter.
Thank you.
So I guess one last thought, and as you were talking about the advisory councils and who wants to join them, I'm always mindful that those are those that sometimes are the loudest, are important to have, but it's also important that we have productive conversations and a collaborative approach to something like an advisory council. And I know that you know this, having been very engaged in youth sports, not myself, but with my sons, and granted, my sons, not daughters, but I you know, politics permeate right down the T-ball sometimes, and third grade and like young sports still generate a feeling of politics. And so I would like to hope and think, and I'm hopeful that as we look towards this new era, because I really do see it as an exciting new era of youth sports in town, and the Talk with the Rec Center and everything is very exciting, that we really do capture, you know, the loud, the quiet, shy voices as well, in getting to include them in participation in those councils. I think that's really important. So
Yeah.
meaning if folks self-select to be on them, then that's what will happen. We'll have folks that have very specific interests, and it'll be important to have folks on there that have a broad interest in representing more than one voice.
Absolutely. I agree. I find often the people that talk a lot and got the loudest voices don't do a lot of work. So, and so, you know, I'm well aware of that. Yeah, so anyway, I want to thank you guys as well as being engaged and being, you know, just caring about your community and caring about, you know, the females and the males, as well as all the genders that you care about. And, you know, I've been so engaged in working most of my life that I haven't had a chance to volunteer very much. So I admire people who do volunteer. You know, it's you know, it takes a lot, and if we didn't have the volunteers, couldn't really accomplish a lot. I don't think, and you know, in the boards and the commissions, and sometimes they're paid, sometimes they're not, depending on what city you're in. But most of the time they're just, even if they're paid, it's a per diem thing. It's not a big deal. But I just, you know, so often I wonder. I said, well, you know, would I volunteer like that if I had all the time? You know, it's something that it's kind of amazes me in a lot of ways. But I've always been so busy that I'm always on the working end and not so much on the volunteer end. But I admire you guys.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much for your time. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna stop talking.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you for joining us, Robert. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Good night.
Good night.
I
Thanks
almost
for all
hung
the
up.
great.
No, don't leave yet. We're almost done. Super exciting about the rec center, though. That is great news. Okay, so I think, where are we? So we're on old business. I think we covered everything else. So Community Outreach and Civic Engagement Committee. So we met, I'm looking at Yvonne. Yvonne and I were the only ones that were able to join last month. And I think there was a general consensus that 6 o'clock on a Monday is not good. So we need to find another time. And I guess we had the lead up to the farmer's market, but then that was canceled in October. And then the other two items were the 2 Gen book club that was last week. Ashley.
Yeah, I can speak to it. Yeah, we had to change, so we changed the date of the book club from November 1st to November 8th, so that we weren't conflicting with the Right to Read film panel at on Wall Street. We did not have anyone come to our 2 Gen book club last week, unfortunately. Claudia and Yvonne and I were there, and Vicki Otis wasn't there from the library, but Lisa, I'm not sure of her last name, was there. We kind of, I've talked to Vicki since then, and we've tossed around the idea of possibly having folks register when they check out the book, and then we could send a follow-up maybe the day before. Vicki said they've tried that and it's been tough. It seems people are just really saturated, and it's just a tough time right now for families to accommodate that. So I will leave it to you all to decide if it's something to go forward with. I think that Vicki is maybe willing to try the registration idea, maybe willing to try it on Zoom, but I don't know if we're super enthusiastic to keep pushing for it, just because hasn't gotten great turnout, even though it was a really great idea.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. Yeah, I mean, I think, maybe we can take it up with Vicki and see. I feel like the next few months are not going to be good for anything like that. So maybe we'd look at the spring. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there wasn't a lot of enthusiasm on the commission, and then low turnout to the first one and no turnout other than us for the last one, as you say. So I guess we just maybe I'm happy. I've been on the emails that Ashley's had with Vicki, so I could just sort of reconnect with her in a few months, or maybe just reply to her now and say we could reconnect after the holidays and in the new year and see, But thank you, Ashley, for that. And all you did to make that happen. I'm gonna have a bigger thank you before we hang up for you. So the other thing is this, so the awards or the event that we had talked about at our September meeting, and we had just sort of bounced around. If you've read the minutes, there were a number of different ideas floated, and then Christina was going to reach out to someone at Norwalk Community, did reach out to someone at NCC. And we were talking about Friday, March 8th, which is International Women's Day. And we had no, for those of you that weren't at the meeting last time, we didn't come to any conclusions about sort of what, where, when do we charge, what, is it really awareness raising? Is it fundraising? Part of the goal is to raise a little bit of money for the commission so we can have a tablecloth when we table, or have some money for things, our t-shirts or whatever. But we just really didn't nail anything down and said we would need to kind of create either a committee or work as a group to make it happen. Christina, I see you came off mute, so I'm going to turn it over to you to see if you have anything to add.
Well, just that I did reach out to NCC, and they would be willing to host the event, but in space only, not a co-host, meaning they would charge us as a rental, which I was a little surprised by. And I'm thinking that I can go back to some other folks there that I know that work there, and pitch it differently. So I'm no longer working with the community colleges. So, but I still have a very deep and strong relationship with Norwalk. So I will continue to pursue it. But I think, Claudia, your concern was if you weren't there. And I think we just, I can certainly reach out and get a confirmation if they could co-host it with us, i.e. not charge us for a rental space. But I have a feeling, though, that it's going to be important that we do have a little bit of a more clarity as to what we want to do in order for them to co-host it. So getting the space is easy. Yes, we'd have to pay for it, but I think it's going to be important that we decide and have a little bit more clarity what we're going to do, and then I can contact them to co-host.
Thanks, Christina. I mean, yeah, so, some of the ideas were to have to really raise awareness about the commission was sort of the overarching goal. And we had talked about maybe having 2 awards, like one for a young person and one for an adult in the community who had impact on, women and girls in our community. We didn't get into, if we charge something, we don't want to charge anything. If there's a charge, it should be either nominal so that really it's a very inclusive event, or like a sliding scale. And then I did realize that this is what I texted to Christina, and I may have shared it with someone else. I'm traveling for work in March 4th through 8th. I'll be on the West Coast for a conference, so I won't actually be in town on the 8th. If it were like nearby, I could get back, but it's in California. So we cannot, we can still look to do something that date. I'm happy to help plan. Hi, Shannon. Fresh off the plane from Disney.
Yes, I'm telling my family to be quiet. Sorry.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, no problem. I wish I brought warmer weather back.
Or we find a different date. And I also just, I guess some just reality checks that it's already like the middle of November when we had talked, when Ashley, Michelle, and I kind of brainstormed about this in, I think, August. We said that we would need to kind of, or early September, like really kind of be ready to have a pretty clear plan by December to kind of at least like let it be known if we're doing, kind of, and start to do promotion around it. So I have some concerns about timing. Not that it's not doable. I think we just need to, if we want to do something, we need to maybe scale back to what our timing and our human resources among us allow. We have some, we don't have a full, we have a quorum, but not everybody's here. We are down after Ashley leaves. After tonight, we'll be down. We have 3 vacancies with, so we're not a fully, we don't have a full complement of like women on the commission to help bring this to life. So, one possibility would be to do something like pretty low key, like a celebration of women in Norwalk, and not really look to raise a lot of money and not really look to give awards yet, but maybe work with LaToya and some of the school. I don't know, like to kind of think about it in a different way. But those are my concerns, the timing and the amount of time, the timing in terms of dates, and also how much time it takes to pull an event off, which I know a number of us have done that in our day jobs, and it's very time consuming. Ashley, I see your hand.
I have a thought as you were talking, because I really love the idea of recognizing, of having this commission, like have a couple of awards that recognize women or anyone who have contributed to gender equity. I love how we had an idea to have like a youth award. What if for the coming year, for 2024, could it be something that we put something out for folks to nominate so that our name is out there, but instead of having an event maybe at the commission's March meeting, we can invite the honorees and recognize them here, and then maybe just share a write-up with the local papers, just so that we've done something, we've recognized women, even if it's not an event, it's maybe something. And then if that is well received, or if we get a lot of interest of people like nominating folks, then it might be a jumping off point to expand the following year. Like kind of I'm just thinking of a way to make it, to have it be something in March 2024. Though I agree that it seems that planning a whole event doesn't seem terribly feasible right now, but putting together criteria for a couple of awards and maybe publicizing just that and inviting 2 honorees maybe is possible. I also am anticipating Norwalk Actions for Reproductive Justice is going to hold our fundraiser at the end of March, just like we did last year. Last year it was a women's basketball night, so we were celebrating the women's Final Four, women's in sports, and raising money for the Reach Fund. You know, possibly we can invite the honorees. You know, maybe we can sort of collaborate a little with that, but I don't know. I really liked the idea of like honoring people in the community and helping to get this commission's name out there more.
I like that idea, Ashley, of doing something here and recognizing them. I like that as well.
And I just want to throw out the idea that as needed, you could probably have it in the community room at City Hall if we wanted to just take logistics down a few notches, make it easier. That community room is a great place for people to make remarks and be recognized, and it has all that space. So I just wanted to share that.
It could be an in-person meeting.
I was just going to say, so maybe the March, in honor of Women's History Month, maybe the March commission meeting is in person in the community room and people are honored. And that might have people like invite, then they might invite a few folks, and it's not an event or a big celebration, but it's honoring and recognizing. And if you gave, that's the kind of stuff that I feel like, the young reporters from the Hour or Nancy on Norwalk enjoy covering. And like, that's, and I would think they would come. I mean, they would probably even log on if it was still on Zoom, but yeah, I think it's a good idea.
I was going to say the same thing about the in-person, but the community room. Michelle got to it first. It's a great space. There's much better acoustics in there. It's a perfect fit.
Mm-hmm. I'd be willing to commit to pulling together some examples of nomination forms. I mean, we're not the first in the world to do this, so I'm sure there'll be something available, but I'm happy to pull some together for both a youth and non-youth. I don't know what's the language we use.
Yeah, what did we say? Community leader and youth? I don't remember.
I have
Michelle
it.
Or Claudia has some handwritten notes.
Yeah, like a community impact award was one, and then I think which was the sort of adult award, and then Ashley had a great suggestion, Rising Star Award or something like that for the youth person. But yes, it was sort of one adult and one youth person. But I love what you all are suggesting and doing it having our March meeting in person, and have like a short business meeting before or after, and then have a celebration and invite people to help celebrate these people, but not see and bring press and all of that. I think that's a great idea.
Invite the Common Council, invite the mayor, and
the Board of Ed.
Yeah, I'll come either way.
That sounds great and like totally doable, right? I was just getting a little panicky about an event. So
yeah, that's doable. And then add some refreshments, and there's the celebration.
Yeah.
Michelle, can you help us find out if the community room is available that day?
Absolutely. Because
I know there is a
already
site, but I can't find it.
Sure, I'll do that.
So would that be would we want to do it on Friday the 8th or at our regular, or just some other day in March?
I think make it part of the regular March meeting, because even that then makes people aware that like we have this commission and it meets the second Monday, and I mean it just might draw some engagement. I would think.
Yeah.
Claudia, wouldn't that help address your schedule and conflict?
Yes, but I didn't want to be like,
That's okay. I'll say it.
I didn't want to be like, no, move it for me. But we
that
can,
Yeah, I
brings
agree,
us-
that Monday, the 11th.
awesome. That's perfect.
Mhm.
Okay, that's great. I love this. And so Michelle, you can check to see if that room is available on that date.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. And Christina, thank you for raising your hand to take a first pass at some nomination forums. I think that's great. And then I think if we can all be thinking about where to circulate those, like I think circulating the youth ones in the schools would be really valuable, and all of them, and any of the groups we know, faith-based groups or nonprofit service organizations, city government, etc. That would be great.
I think all of them. Yeah, I think maybe like a personal email to all like the principal, high school and middle school principals, maybe. Like, just so it really definitely gets to their communities.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Good. So maybe we can start a like a maybe on the Google sheet, Yvonne, that you created. Would you be able to create a new tab for just a running list of like people to circulate this to, like the schools, or kind of, and we can all just kind of populate that with people we know and within our networks.
I would be sure to include some of the private schools in the area too, not just the public schools, just to make sure we're really not excluding anyone.
Yeah.
That was created by Sarah, but I'll make sure I can connect with her and,
Okay.
and see if we can add a.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
And
Great.
do we need to come up with like deadline for, maybe not now, but just thinking about it, like coming up with deadline for all nominations, and like how are we choosing, who's choosing? Is there a committee for that, or is it just a special meeting for that?
I can put together a timeline. So like if we're talking March 11th, just from some experience I've had with things like this. So I can
Okay.
put together a timeline if somebody else wants to take a stab at, well, the nomination forms would identify some requirements. So again, I'll draft something and we can use it. We cannot use it. Totally nothing personal. So just to get the conversation going. And then maybe if someone else could kind of pick up the charge of whether it's a group of a group of us, not the whole commission, or a committee, so to speak. So if maybe somebody else can pick that up, I'll work up the nomination forms and the timeline.
Okay, it'll have to be sort of like you can't discuss it at the February meeting because our meetings are public. So it'll have to be some kind of, not a special nomination selection committee or something.
Correct. Good point. Yep.
And one thing we did talk about, Jasmine, in terms of your question at the September meeting, was that nominations could be made by anybody, and we would like try to get as many as possible. And then I forget what we're thinking again about how to whittle that down, but then like final decisions would be made by the commission, but that there would be kind of a huge net thrown to like get as many nominations from the community as possible.
And we will do it in a Google form, right? Something like a kind of survey Google form that people can fill in online, right?
That seems like a great idea. Have a Google form that anyone who wants to nominate someone fills it out, and you can include, they can write sentences or short paragraphs supporting why they nominated that person, and that have all that line up with the criteria.
Michelle, quick question. Do you think we can include like a link in our webpage that we have within the boards and commissions, so we can direct people there to go to the form?
Yeah, sure. I don't see why not. Yep.
Yeah, because if we put the link there, then people will see the commission, the description of the commission, and just there.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So I think so we have December, January, February. We have 3 meetings before this. So I think a lot will have to get done between meetings to kind of move it along. And so Christina, yeah, thank you for doing those drafts. And then yeah, if Jasmine, I'm looking at you since you asked the question, but if you have thoughts about how to take the, how to move it forward from the draft nomination form, or how to, yeah, kind of what would be that process of evaluating the nominations and who should we include in that process? I mean, that would be great. And like kind of how much time we would need for that. And I guess you'll work on a timeline, Christina, which would be helpful, but
I think it would be good if by our next meeting in December, we have already decided what the form is going to have. We can communicate via email about it and have the form up and launch it in December. So that gives people time to be aware and submit their nominations as well.
yeah, that makes sense. Is that realistic for you,
Okay.
Christina, to do it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think though to start to solicit nominations by December might be a little bit early. I just find that people really do check out in December for some reason. So maybe sort of having everything ready to go, and come January 1, then spread the word about nominations and kick it off. I think trying to get anything off the ground in December might be a little bit challenging. Just my thought.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And we still would, if we kicked it off like January 2nd, which is the first
Right.
business day, right? Then we still have all of January, all of February to not that we would want to take that much time, but like, depending on, have the nominations in by like the first part of February, take a few weeks to.
And get everything ready. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
get
like all
everything
the-
ready to
yeah.
go in
Yeah.
between now and December.
We can finally decide when to launch it, but if we have it ready, then.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, no, that's great.
Mhm.
Okay, any other thoughts or comments or questions on that? Okay,
I did have a question, but not about this.
yeah, go ahead.
It's actually about the site, Michelle. If you can check it out, it shows only 1 vacant in our group, and Anna Keenan is still there in the list of commissioners.
Okay, well, I know that Ashley sent her resignation letter to Irene, so I'll just let her know there should be three spots. And just as a heads up, we are looking for someone we need someone who's affiliated as an I, a U, or an R politically, in case anyone has recommendations that they want to send Irene of folks interested. Thanks for that, Yvonne.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I gave a name in almost a year ago, so I don't know
And
where that stands.
Unfortunately, not everyone that, and we appreciate that. We appreciate everyone's help, and not every resume that comes forward is selected. But I appreciate
And
it.
I've raised that issue previously as well, just to try to get some feedback so that we don't go around in circles, and I think it's a little bit of a challenge, but I agree with Shannon that having put names forward and them not being acted upon, or we now know that they didn't get moved forward, but having some understanding of why, I think actually and maybe
So
just
I
to
think
understand
not even necessarily, I don't mean to cut you off, Michelle, and not that a reason doesn't need to be given, a no is a no, but if we could just say no and just move on, that's all.
Shannon, that was
just leaving
Christina.
it open.
Yeah,
Well,
Shannon, sorry,
I'm sorry. I'm tying into both your points because I understand Michelle saying it's not moved forward, and I completely respect that. I just think for anybody putting their name forward, they deserve the respect to say, "I'm sorry, you're not a good fit at this time," and we all move on. I just think that we need to just close the loop, as they say, as we're supposed to. Something we were spearheading was this whole appointment process. We should be making it better and just improving it as much as we can.
Yes, thanks for your feedback.
So I think unless there's anything else on the diversification or the community outreach committee or the diversification committee, otherwise I think we're so before we adjourn, I do just want to, so Ashley did submit her letter of resignation, which is the bad news. The good news is she successfully won a seat on the Board of Education. So congratulations. And I just want to say, I mean, and I think you've been on the commission 8 months, 10 months, something like that. And you just brought so much energy. And I mean, you're from your first meeting, and you're just such a hard worker and brought tons of ideas and tons of action, and always with a mind toward how can we be doing this, making our mission visible, partnering with different groups, and you made so many things happen. With the tabling, with you were a huge force on the tabling and the 2Gen book group, and lots of ideas around the name and the event or the awards. So you will be sorely missed. And if you happen to clone yourself in the next month, please send your double over here. But just huge thanks for everything. Wish you all the best, of course.
Well, thank you. I have really, really enjoyed this, and I wish I felt like I could do both. But do keep me in the loop with whatever initiatives and events you all have going forward, because I do want to continue to spread the word about the work that this commission is doing, and continue to support everything that y'all are doing. So thank you it's been a great year.
Yeah, thank you.
Ashley, it was a pleasure.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank
We'll
you,
see
Ashley.
you
It has been
around.
great working with you. Mhm.
All right, so
Thank you for your service, Ashley, and best of luck.
Yes, best of luck.
and thanks in advance for your upcoming service starting tomorrow, I think, right?
Thanks. Actually, not quite tomorrow.
Okay, I thought you said tomorrow.
Apparently we can't be sworn in until the mayor is re-sworn in. There's like a 2-week period that needs to be honored. So
Okay, well,
not
you
quite
get
tomorrow, but soon.
catch your breath.
Thank you.
All right, so I think with that, I'll call the meeting. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move a motion to adjourn. Oh, sorry.
Thanks, Yvonne. And a second?
I'll second. Sorry, Jasmine.
I got Jasmine. That's Jasmine. Okay, so meeting adjourned at 8:21. Thank you all for all your energy and ideas. Have a good Thanksgiving.
You
Oh,
too.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.